6th and 7th graders, this is part 2 for your value shading exercise. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You practiced your value scales. So now what you're going to do is you're going to add them to two different forms. So looking at your still life, we have a few cylinders. Our bottle is even somewhat of a cylinder. It's a different shape, but it has that round form, long form like a cylinder. And then you also have a sphere form like your apple. So we're going to practice a cylinder and we're going to practice a sphere. So these don't have to be perfect, just drawing, make it large enough so you've got some room to practice, but for a cylinder, simple cylinder, oval at the top, straight lines down, just like that yellow bucket, and then make sure that this line is curved to match that top curved line. Creates a form. And then for your sphere, you actually just start out with a circle. So, now when you start the shading, and let's look at our still life right here. So I have a bright light shining on this picture over here, and so you can see the kind of the glare in the bottle. You can see how this is really light, and then the shadows are in the back, and we'll add the shadows later to our still life. It's very bright right here, and then that shadow's back here. So when you work on your cylinder here, I want you to be looking at this too, and kind of looking at this one in particular, and then your apple in particular, and thinking about how you can see right here it's very dark, and actually it's almost about the same tone right here. This darkest part, if you look at this picture, the darkest part is your shadows. So that's going to be when you're really pushing down. That's the darkest area. When you get to here, there's the yellow tint in there, but this is another shade, and then here's another shade, and then here's another shade right here, and then it gets really bright right here. So breaking it up like that, and thinking about that, and then we'll talk about the apple later. Let's just concentrate on the cylinder. So I like to start with the darkest and work my way to the lights. So when we're doing a cylinder, you're gonna leave the top white, because when you look at this, most of it is light except for about right here. But for us and for now, we're just going to leave this top white, and then we're just going to concentrate on this roundness in the cylinder form. So we're going to break this up into sections. So looking up here and kind of chunking it off at a time. So I'm going to just make this the darkest, so just follow along with me. This is just an exercise, making this the darkest little chunk right here. Again, feel free to pause if you need to. Just go ahead and draw along with me. I'm going to push down a little bit harder, really making it contrast stand out. Okay. So now you're going to move on to the next square and lighten up a little bit. Okay, and then move on to the next one. Just lighten up a little bit more. Let's take taking me a while. I gotta lighten up a little bit more. And then thinking about, okay, I'm gonna lighten up a little bit more. Imagine a bright light shining over here. Hitting up even more as you're moving across. Sometimes you have to backtrack. Okay, lighting up even more and more and more and more. Now, the trick with this right here is also with the lines, the contour lines that we drew in here. So this is really dark, and as you get lighter and lighter, like we want a line there, but I don't want it to be that dark. So kind of coming back, and you want it to be there because it shows where the cylinder ends, you know, the edge of the cylinder, but it's too dark, it stands out a little bit too much. But okay, so gradually, and then in this case, if we were looking at this, and this would just be good practice with both of our cylinders, is there's this shade right here, so the light's kind of passing this part is shadowed. So you could look at that, and just as a good practice, there's no cover on top of the cylinder, so going into this top oval and coloring in a little bit up here shows that there's an opening. There's some depth going on right here because there's a shadow in there. So having it dark on this side and then lighting up kind of the opposites, and then, you know, redefining that edge a little bit, and gradually making it so it's getting lighter and lighter on that side. Okay, kind of shows the same effect. Okay. All right, sphere. Your sphere. Sphere's a little trickier, but you can do it. So with our sphere, and you look at your apple right here, you know, it's very light, and then it gets darker over here. So for a sphere, wherever that light is shining, and on our apple it's pretty much like right at the top on the stem, you're going to want to make more of a circular, you know, I'm going to very lightly draw a circle right here. And then as you come across, so up here we were doing, you know, up and down motion, the shape of that cylinder form, kind of like rectangles, you know. This time it's going to be more like circles. So I could lightly show you, and you could do this too, kind of showing where the gradation's going to be. You know, it's going to be lighter here, and then it's going to get darker as you move towards the back of the apple. Okay, so that's really the only tricky part about it. So let's go ahead and we'll start. You can add these lines really lightly, and then start with the darkest, so the back where the shadow is. Keeping that circular form all the way around. So about right here. And then getting lighter. So it's always being constantly aware of how much you're pushing down when you're doing this type of shading. So, and now I'm going into here. Now remember, this white is the circle, small circle is kind of it's the whitest part, the brightest part. So I'm going to kind of quickly start lifting up. And sorry, my daughter is playing with marbles. And it's a little distracting. So, as you get towards the middle, this is where an eraser can kind of come in handy. So I'm going to erase that circle. We don't really want that there. It was just kind of a guideline. And, you know, I see lots of random lines that are streaking through. So that eraser can play a really nice role into cleaning up and making it look a little more even, less streaky. And then over here, I'm going to just continue a little bit of the shade around the edge. Okay, so I want you to practice this. I know these videos are a little long, but this is going to be really good practice for you, especially because we're going to dive right in with colored pencils as well as pencil for this, for your still life. So it's good to get this down with pencil. I would like you to submit a picture of this. This is an assignment that is part of your project. So as soon as you finish this step, I'll have an assignment page set up, so follow the directions from the assignment page and take a picture of this with your Chromebook, just like you did for your last project, and upload it onto your Schoology page. So, okay, cool. Nice job. Can't wait to see them.